Hello, and welcome to the fourth and final class for Aries season. I am so excited to go over this class today because we're going to review the laundry list that is found in adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families. And we are also going to review the promises found in two recovery programs. They're both 12-step programs. One is Alcoholics Anonymous, and the other is Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families. I have this note on the bottom of my screen when I do live classes. If you come in late, welcome. You're welcome, wanted, and needed. And I love when people join my class. If you have a question, if you could wait until the question screen, or you can put something in the chat, and I'll fill you in. No need to apologize for coming in late. Life happens to all of us. So big hugs, deep breath, and center, sit back and relax. This is my practice class, or the class before my live class, where I make sure I cover all of the information that I wanted to cover. So let's jump in. Hi, what is this? This class is called The Power of 12 by 12. What comes to mind when you see 12 times 12? Oftentimes it's 144. If you are religious, you may have heard the term of 144,000. We also have the number 12 as this cultural conceptual mark of completion, from the 12 hours on the clock to the 12 months in the year to the 12 steps, 12 traditions, 12 promises in recovery. There's 12 zodiac signs, 12 houses found in astrology. And then there's 12 apostles, 12 days of Christmas found in Christianity. This is a mix between kindergarten instruction and group therapy when I have students live, where we can ask questions to dig a little bit deeper. This is a safe space to share, grow, learn, and just like with any class, whatever you whatever you put in, you get out. So whether you receive transferable credits at a school that you can, university, or you attend a non-credit class through your local Parks and Rec department, you'll get something out of it. At minimum, I expect you to be fully present the night of class. If you're on here live participating, attending where you can have minimal distractions and be able to show up prepared, primarily with an open mind. And let's go over the materials and books. But as long as you communicate with me, Katie, the instructor, I think you'll be amazed before you're halfway through. Important information and disclaimers. This is not an ACA or AA meeting. This is a class that teaches a holistic approach to healing from trauma found in childhood, either through childhood poverty, bullying, religious trauma, things that are not typical for kids to have to deal with. While you may have found this class through a 12-step program, it's not a substitute for one. So go to aa.org or adultchildren.org, find a meeting, find a sponsor, work the steps. That's not what this is. I'm not a licensed therapist or a counselor, nor do I play one on TV. I'm not a minister, I'm not a faith leader. I have an Associates of Arts, an equivalent of an Associate of Arts in early childhood education, as well as a lot of life experience. I am beta testing this class to see how it turns out. Location, I would love to do an in-person. However, a lot of it just depends on interest, local interest. We'll go over supplies in a moment. The syllabus review, I'm not going to cover today because we start next season and the syllabus will change. And lastly, there are forms to be completed if you are a student of mine. It just shows that I have permission to have some of your personal information. These are the suggested supplies. If you are participating all year long, It would be great to have the time of your birth. We definitely need location. We definitely need to know the date, but sometimes it's hard to find the time. The time provides us with your rising sign, which provides us with houses. And if we don't have that, we can still see how your character gets dressed up. It's just not going to show us the stage. I will give you a blank birth chart for the first class of each season. I would love for you to fill in and see how your birth chart works for you. A ruler, a folder to keep handouts in, sometimes in specific order. I say a stapler and staples. I like to be organized. A pencil with an eraser, so as we draw lines, and if you mess up, you can edit freely. And then there are these very fine pens I like because it makes it easier to delineate between what houses things are and what signs things are in degrees. That's why I like different colors. So that's why I listed that as well. If you would like suggestions, let me know. I do have some. This is the suggested books for this course. I source material a lot from these books. I have updated the links to reflect New Renaissance Bookstore in Portland, Oregon. They are a great resource for all of these types of things. The only books that they don't carry are the big book, 12 by 12 as Bill sees it, and the big red book. So those are recovery-based books, and you can find them at the links I've shared, but primarily aa.org or adultchildren.org. How this class is set up. So this class is designed to funnel my experience, strength, and hope into a safe framework teaching. My Jupiter is in Sagittarius. I've gone through a lot and sometimes still can't believe that I'm here. I decided to share my story in the form of teaching because that feels the safest for me. I did use these methods. The 12 apostles definitely were already there in my knowledge bank. The link to their zodiac sign is new, as well as the 12 days of Christmas. And I just kind of wanted to see the overlap of all of it. So it kind of taught myself as well. So our introduction in person, I definitely like to give the first 11 minutes, 10 to 11 minutes for people to come in. I say 10 minutes and people, have a panic attack over, 9 minutes and 57 seconds, so 11 minutes is a really easy number. You don't feel so on the ball. But basically, it's just coming in and getting settled and acclimated with your body and getting into a place where your brain can really learn and retain information. And then we'll review weekly the expectations and goals, kind of like my disclosures, like I just did. And then at this point, I pause for questions. Right now, I'm just recording by myself, so we won't have questions. But in person, I hope to have questions. And then I'll lecture for about 25 to 35 minutes on the topic. I have a format that I'm using. The first week of each season is the steps and traditions of recovery. The second week is, the first week is the planetary placement, the house, and the zodiac sign. Week 2 is steps and traditions. Week 3 is Christianity, apostles, and 12 days of Christmas. And week 4 are our promises and laundry. So week 4, we're going to do our laundry and we're going to see what those promises are. And that's today. It's really interesting that something just fell. Woo! Okay. And then we'll wrap up with questions followed by a short experience or story, sometimes a poem. That wraps up to what we're talking about. Katie@swanmagic.com is my email. Use it with questions or concerns. My office hours are flexible. If you've paid for this course, please know that I am excited to help you with any questions that you have, any placements that you have. That's why you do private school, so you have a coach. Okay. So what's the laundry list? What am I talking about? And if you do know what I'm talking about, you're probably thinking, aren't there 14 of them and not 12? So how are you blending this? So the laundry list is a term that we use in adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families and or dysfunctional families. It's a term we use to describe common traits found in people who have been raised that way. We'll go over them in a minute. The reason why I picked up the first 12 as opposed to all 14, the first 12 traits are the ones that begin with the word we. So 12 or 13 and 14 refer to the alcoholism or power alcoholics as their first sentiment. And so I use the first 12 in my class because it is the power of 12 by 12. But yes, there are 14 traits. And we'll cover number 13 and 14 when we cover 12. So this is the laundry list. I'll leave this up for a moment. We're only going to be focusing on this number 1. We became isolated and afraid of people and authority figures. If you grew up in an alcoholic or dysfunctional home, oftentimes things were not consistent. And if your parent was a rageaholic, so when they were drunk, they were angry, you might be scared of people who are authority figures. You also might want to isolate because it's easier to protect yourself that way. So that one really resonated with me. At the time that I learned ACA, I was in legal stuff and authority figures. I was so isolated and afraid I didn't want to leave my bedroom. And this has been a common theme of mine since being disfellowshipped at the age of 16 in a church, being excommunicated. Having to meet before the elders really kind of messed with my head, that authority figure. And a lot of people say, I'm not scared of anybody. When I redo this, I'll put this, because the next one is really, when people say that, that doesn't resonate with me. That's not who I am. I go to the other laundry list to cover our fear of people and our dread of isolation. So you don't want people to know that you're scared, and you don't want people to know that you're dreading isolation. So we tragically become, not you, we become the very authority figures who frighten others and cause them to withdraw. Now, here's the thing. This was not a true statement for me until I had kids. Once I had kids, I started becoming the authority figure that I didn't like. And that's when I sought out recovery, because I became this ugly part of myself that I wasn't before. Why? And I didn't want my kids to be scared of me. I didn't want them to withdraw from me. I want them to talk to me. I want them to tell me what's in their head and their heart. And so I had to show them, I had to be honest with my kids and show them that I was scared of people, and I did dread isolation. I couldn't cover it. I couldn't cover those things from my kids because that's not being honest. And so when I did that, I was able to get to the flip side, which is facing and resolving, and stop intimidating with others, your kids, with your power and your position. That's for me. Now, this also was a big thing for me. We moved out of isolation and are not unrealistically afraid of other people, even authority figures. How can you not be scared of authority figures? Let's just use law enforcement. When you're not doing anything wrong, when it's like all out in the open, everything's transparent, hands in the air. You've got, like, you're just naked, like, essentially. You're completely vulnerable. You have nothing to be afraid of. And it says not unrealistically, right? If you're in the middle of war and you're naked and you don't have armor on, yeah, you're going to probably be scared, and that's probably legit. But unrealistic, right? We're talking about realistically, when you're honest, when you're driving down, I remember like having a cop behind me and just being like, if they pulled me over, I could like talk to them. What's up? Is my tail light out? Because I'm not drinking, I'm not using, I'm not speeding, I'm not breaking the law. I've got nothing to hide. So that was really cool, being able to move outside of my room, outside of myself, because I'm no longer scared. That's a gift. It's a promise. So these are the 4 versions put together. So we become this, or we become the ones that's scared, or we do the scaring. And again, you can experience both. The laundry list was me in everyday life, except for my kids. When it came to my kids, then I went to the other laundry list, right? So as like this flip flop, I don't know why I'm doing that. Why I am moving laundry lists around, like this laundry list or the other laundry list, but it didn't matter. I wanted to take action. And so working recovery helps me flip things upside down. So we call it the flip side of the laundry list. I use the hangman as an analogy because it's the flip side. Look at something from a different angle. And so you take this laundry and you whoosh it out, and then we can move. We're moving out of isolation. We're facing and resolving. We're not intimidating other people. There's this saying I saw on social media that says, am I intimidating or are you intimidated? And while that's true, I can't worry about how other people perceive me. I do know what energy I put out. So if I'm out trying to intimidate someone and they're feeling intimidated, and I say like, oh, is that just you? No, that's gaslighting. That's energetic gaslighting, because I am giving the intention to intimidate them. And I need to stop doing that. Then I can say, I don't, it doesn't matter how you perceive it, because I know I'm not trying to intimidate you. Right? It's that honesty about ourselves. So the promises, when we do the work, we get promises, because that's the laundry list. Our promises are, if we're painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we're halfway through. That's promise number 1. That's found on page 83 of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. We'll go over all of them, but this is the very first one. And if there's 12 by step 6, I think we'll be amazed by the time we're like a quarter of the way done. By the time we're done with Gemini season, your mind will be blown. So the ACA promises we will discover our real identities by loving and accepting ourselves. We will discover. Discover means that we find something, and we get to find our real identity. House 1 is all about identity. And this is the start of everything. This is the beginning. Number 1, the beginning. Mars placement, that passion, that fire that gets shot out. So these are the 2 versions of the promises. This phase of our development, it's this honesty. We will discover our real identities by loving and accepting ourselves. So putting it all together, this is how I look at it. It all blended together for me. I like took notes, I write it out, and all I see is this intensity, aggression, spotlight. That's astrology with this placement. And when you combine that with admitting that we were powerless, because Mars, Aries, first house is all about power. And so when you take away our power and we're powerless, our lives become unmanageable. And now you're telling me that my personal recovery now depends on unity when I'm trying to be isolated? Are you even kidding me right now? How can I even trust somebody if I move? If I move out of isolation? If I face and resolve these things by flipping the laundry over, before it gets stale and stinky. And then there's Peter, using Peter as an example. He's got the keys to the kingdom. Do you want keys to something? It starts by being brave. It starts by being honest. And this partridge in a pear tree, it's this beginning. It's this sacrificial, I will sacrifice my life for the greater good. that red martyr energy, because I know that the information for the masses is more important. It's like the tree represented the cross or the redemption. So that's where I see that beginning of redemption. And then blending that laundry list in. Those issues with authority, you don't have them when you're honest. When we face and resolve and we move with the authority, we're honest. We don't have to worry anymore. And then this discovery happens about who we are. So my tip on honesty every week has been the same: digestible by the receiver. This includes honesty to ourselves. This is the part where I'm going to alter just a little bit, because as we're growing stronger, we should be noticing our ability to swallow more uncomfortable things about ourselves. So making sure we're checking in with a coach or a mentor or a sponsor to make sure you're exercising the spiritual muscle enough so that you're getting the most benefit, the most bang for your buck. If you're going to the gym and you weren't seeing any results, you're going to probably be like, okay, I got to do something a little bit differently because this ain't working. It's the same thing with our spiritual work. You've got to make sure that you are growing along the lines that you are working. And if you're not, email me. I will say, when in doubt, go soft serve. We don't need to hurt ourselves. You don't need to strain just because you think you should be further ahead. This is just my pause in saying, as we grow stronger, by the time we get to house 12, we're going to see that we're ripped spiritually. We're buff. We're ready to take on humanity. Next week, tour season begins. We moved classes to Fridays, 7 o'clock, April 21st. Any questions? A story? I think I'm going to end there. All right. Thank you for watching. If you did, this is a really big day for me because I have this thing called the 4-episode rule. So if I use Veronica Mars as my favorite show, a lot of people will watch the first episode and be like, this is not for me. But I say, give it 4 episodes. Same with the OC. Give it 4 episodes and see if you like it. And if you do like it after 4 episodes, you're kind of hooked. It's the same thing with anything, in my opinion. So this is the 4-episode test. I did 4 classes, which is proving something to myself. I was worried if I would feel a certain type of way if nobody showed up. And you know what? I needed to prove it to myself more than I needed to prove it to anybody else. So I will end with that. It's 11/11. Make a wish. Thank you, Ted Lasso. Thank you, to all those who have supported me and sponsored me and worked with me. I'm excited for Friday, April 21st. See you then.